All right, thank you and welcome to our second family forum today on Tuesday, September 28th. We are going to get started right away. If you haven't done so already, please type your name into the chat. That's the way that we record attendance during these meetings. Throughout the meeting, I am monitoring the chat, so if any questions come up for you, feel free to drop them in the chat. If I miss your question, definitely you can come off of mute to ask it. And as always, we have a fair amount of time chunked at the end for any question and answer. These videos are recorded and shared on our YouTube channel. So this is the third edition of the Family Forum this school year. If you want to check out previous meetings, you can go to the YouTube channel. It's all accessible on the Henry website. So as I referenced, we are in our agenda, we're going to accomplish two things. I have some general information to share about some new things that are going on at Henry, nothing too much of a huge announcement. And then definitely we'll have time for open discussion at the end. I just wanted to start off by sharing a little bit about our back to school night that happened last week. It was on Tuesday, a week ago, September 21st. So thank you very much if you were one of the roughly 300 families who logged on. We were very, very happy to have such extensive virtual participation. If you were not able to make it to back to school night and you have questions about what's going on in your child's homeroom, their classroom, or with any of our specialist teachers or our counselor, definitely reach out to them. Many teachers are able to share information virtually or schedule a time to catch you up on what you may have missed. If you're interested in the information that I had to share, you can, hold on one second. Let me pause my screen and reshare. Can you see my screen? Divya, I can see you. Can you see my screen? Okay. I was just trying to put into the chat. I clicked the wrong button. That is the YouTube channel. So there are two back to school night videos on the YouTube channel. One is just the general welcome video where I talk a little bit about what's going on in the beginning of the year. And then also I held our fall Title I presentation that talks about the ways that we spend our Title I funding. Both of those are recorded online, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Okay, this is some new information. We are at the point where we are beginning to welcome some external volunteers into our school. I've shared in earlier meetings that due to COVID health and safety protocols, we have not been in a place where we've been able to safely welcome volunteers in the building. That is still true. The district has fairly strict health and safety protocols with the intention of keeping everybody safe. But we are beginning to welcome outdoor volunteers to help us throughout the school day. So some examples of areas where volunteers could support us would be with morning supervision around any part of the school building, helping with crossing the streets. We have 3 crossing guards who support us, but we know that we need more help. Similarly with dismissal, making sure that students are traveling safely on the sidewalks around the school. We have a small outdoor lunch rotation that has already started, and with some volunteer capacity, we will be able to expand that. And then lastly, supporting our kids with healthy game playing, supervising sports games or activities while they're outside on the recess yard. So if you are interested in being a volunteer, we are flexible and would love to work with you. All volunteers, whether they're parents, guardians, or community members, do have to have School District of Philadelphia volunteer clearances. When our kids were all going on field trips and parents would come as a chaperone, you also need your volunteer clearances if you ever chaperone a field trip. So volunteer clearances are valid usually for 5 years. There is a website that I'm about to drop in the chat that explains everything that you need to do in order to be a volunteer with the School District of Philadelphia. We maintain all of that documentation on the school level. So if you have any questions about, oh, I think I submitted it 2 years ago, or I don't quite remember, you could call the main office or shoot an email to our secretary. She is the one who keeps all of that information organized and on file. The second form that I have linked in this slide is just an internal form to gauge interest. I shared this first in this morning's family forum. It's going to go out in a family letter scheduled for October 1st. But this is an internal interest form. It just asks, what are some areas that you're interested in supporting us and what's your availability? There's some different times of the day that we're looking for help, and we'll take to help any day of the week. You could do a short-term commitment or something more long-term throughout the year. So if you would like to help on out, feel free to fill out that form, and a member of the Henry leadership team is going to follow up with you. I'm not going to read this slide, but this is the board policy, policy 916, that outlines the requirements for volunteers in the district. So if you click the second link I put into the chat with the FACE website, that stands for Family and Community Engagement, it'll link you to this policy. You need your Pennsylvania child abuse history clearances, criminal record clearances. There's a volunteer affirmation statement that comes from the district. And then there's also a volunteer orientation that everybody needs to participate in. Each year, a member of the FACE office comes to Henry or virtually organizes a volunteer orientation. And if that time doesn't work for you, they always have virtual ones that are scheduled through the district. But this is just a sneak peek. We'll make sure to send all this information over your way. And again, if you're not sure if your clearances are still valid, call the office or send Ms. Lou an email, our secretary, and she'll definitely let you know. I've had parents ask me in the past, why do I need clearances? And I think it's just a really important level of safety, a layer of safety to make sure that we're keeping track of every single person who comes into the school building and works with our students. So these are clearances that school district employees have to renew every 5 years as well. All right, shifting gears a little bit. I wanted to talk about the academic calendar and make sure that I am making sure that everyone's aware of some changes that have recently occurred. So if you are somebody who likes to listen to the school district board meetings, you know that, or you read an inquiry on philly.com, there's been a lot of conversations about the academic calendar. Here is a hyperlink of where on the school district's website you can access the academic calendar. The topic of conversation has been around professional development days for our staff. They've had a couple different models, and if you were a part of the Henry community last year, we used to have virtual days on Wednesdays, and then we had virtual days on Fridays, and there have been a couple different approaches. So they're still engaged in that conversation. They made a decision last week that we will have 3-hour early dismissal days once a month, and it's beginning in October. So this was not on the calendar when we started school on August 31st, and now it is on the calendar. So please make sure that you're not caught by surprise with our upcoming early dismissal days. The first one is going to begin on November the 19th. They're roughly once a month, so I just dropped the November, December, and January date there as well. If you are a returning Henry family, you probably remember our communication folders that we would use on Wednesday to send home important pieces of communication. We still have those folders. Quite honestly, one of our folder boxes was damaged and lost by FedEx, so we've delayed handing them out until we can hand them to the whole school. But they are coming, and your child may have received their folder already. In the month of October, when the whole school has folders, you can definitely expect to be receiving some paper-based communication from us. Those are things like monthly calendars or permission slips, media release forms, walking field trip forms, paper copies of things that we've held off sending home before we have our communication folders. I am trying to, as much as possible, send things electronically when we can, but we know that there's a large number of families that do prefer the paper copy. So we're going to do a combination of communication. When we look ahead to the next couple months of school, there are a number of federal holidays and district holidays when we'll be closed. So on October 11th, in a couple weeks, we're closed for Indigenous Peoples Day. On November 2nd, it's Election Day. And on November 11th, it's Veterans Day. So if that wasn't on your radar, please know that the school building and all administrative offices are closed on that day. Do not send your child to school, which did happen to a couple families when we were off for Yom Kippur a few weeks ago. So please make sure that you have plans for your child. And then finally, we do have report card conferences coming up at the end of the first marking period. This is pretty far in the future, almost 2 months from now. But for any new families, just know that when we have report card conference days, there are also early dismissal days for students. So those are 3 additional days when the kids will be dismissing 3 hours early. So at 12:15. I definitely will be sending out lots of reminders and lots of information about when to pick your child up. But just know on early dismissal days, all kids still eat lunch at school. So you can plan for that. And we don't have additional aftercare because our teachers are going to be meeting with parents. So please make sure that you have plans on those days. All right, another important announcement. Kristen, I see your question. I'll come back to it in a moment. So school selection. If you're not familiar with what school selection is, it's the time when our 8th graders are applying to high schools. Students in 4th to 7th grade, if interested, they can apply to a Philadelphia magnet school. And it's also an important time that any current family who would like a sibling to come to Henry and they live out of catchment, they must apply to be on our wait list through school selection. That's even true if you live out of our catchment and you don't have a kid at Henry. If you would like your child to come to our school and we are not your neighborhood school, you 100% of the times have to apply through the school selection portal. I think that this is the latest it's ever been. Normally it opens in mid-September and it runs to mid-November. The timeline has not been announced yet. I was in communication with the office today. They said it's coming in the next week or so, but I just want to make sure that it's on everybody's radar because it's something that people are always asking me about. School selection is run through the Office of Student Placement, and here's their website. I check it daily to see when the window's open. And if you have a child who's going to be 5 years old by September 1st, 2022, and you would like them to come to Henry and we're not your neighborhood school, you must apply during school selection. If you are an out of catchment family and your kid currently goes to school, you don't need to apply. It's just for new students. I'll definitely be sending out some more information. And if anyone has questions about this, our school counselor, Miss Austin, is truly the point person. I just put her email address into the chat. I know that she's been in communication with families using the Teachers Remind accounts. So definitely shoot her an email if you have any questions. Before I go to the next slide, I just wanted to answer Kristen's questions about whether report card conferences will be on Zoom. That question also came up this morning. I have not decided that yet. I'm still waiting for a little bit of more information from the district. And I'll say that that answer will come in October. All right, the next topic that I'd like to share a little bit of information about is around before and after care services. So when the school district over the summer announced a number of changes with our starting and end times, our bell schedules, it caused a lot of conflicts for many families. Henry's time was only shifted by 15 minutes, but some schools had a much more drastic shift in their daily time. I am glad to say that we and all schools in the city are the recipient of ESSER funds, which is the American Rescue Plan Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. These are grant funds that we can use on the school level to pay staff to provide additional before and after care programming for students. It's wonderful. It's additional money. We definitely never say no to additional money. But I will say that it requires some programming and preparation on our end. So this programming is going to be teacher and staff member driven. So my ability to provide additional programming before or after school depends on the staff member's ability to be here. So stay tuned for more information. It's definitely going to be shared in an upcoming letter. And I talked this morning about what before or after care means. What it doesn't mean is us just opening the school building early and letting kids sit in the cafeteria and eat. That's not before or after care. These funds are for programming, which means club type programming, sports activities, things that are educational and fun. It's not supposed to be computer based. It's really supposed to focus on social emotional skills, physical interactions. Like it's not going to be a Chromebook club. It could be a tutoring club. It could be a homework club. It could have an academic focus, but it does require a little preparation on our end. So please stay tuned. I'm glad to share that we have enough money to provide this programming throughout the entire year. So once we get up and running, it'll be there, which is pretty cool. So along the same lines, EC stands for extracurricular. Those are the clubs that people are always asking about and loved, before we spent the last year and a half at home. So I have a couple exciting opportunities about extracurricular to share, and there's definitely more information coming. This first announcement is for any families of students in grades 5, 6, 7, or 8, male or female. We have a new partnership this year with an organization called Philadelphia Youth Basketball, or PYB. They are running a free extracurricular program that is open to everybody who's interested. It has not started yet, and it's going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I just put the digital flyer right there in the chat if you're interested in it. And kids don't need any basketball experience. There's also a Saturday component for families who are interested. This is a program that is happening in, I think, 18 other schools across the city of Philadelphia. And I believe we're the only school in Northwest Philly that is part of it. It's pretty cool. It's a really awesome opportunity. And we are just starting to promote it this week. If you know that your child definitely would like to be a part of this, that's the registration form, the second link I just put in. Again, this information is going to be shared across all parents in those grade levels, but you get a sneak peek when you come to the family forum meetings. A couple other small extracurricular announcements that I can share right now is that Ms. Canarini, our social studies teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th, is going to be running a debate club this year. That's something she's done in previous years. It involves our upper school students, and she is the best person to contact if you have any questions about that. And then last but not least, this face on the bottom of the screen is Mr. Mosley. His role at Henry is to be a digital service fellow. So last year we had someone in this role, a different person in this role. He is an AmeriCorps volunteer who's with us full-time 5 days a week. He works in the Launchpad with Ms. Pinnell. And he's actually a student at NYU learning about video production, which is pretty cool. He knows a lot. He has a lot of specialized knowledge. One component of his AmeriCorps program is that he's going to be running year-long clubs after school focused on technology. He's starting with a smaller group of students, roughly 25 students. I think it might even be less than that. But he's going to be growing it as the year goes on. So you can definitely expect to hear a little bit more information from him. And then last but not least, I wanted to say that there will be more coming soon. We, in this month of school, have been focused on sort of like getting the plane off of the tarmac right now. We're flying it. And then once we feel like we are really solid and stable with what we're doing, we will be adding on more. So if you've been at Henry for a number of years, you know we've had chess club, we've had gardening club, we've had math club, we've had so many different clubs. But right now we've really just been focused on getting school running. The clubs are always teacher driven. So oftentimes it aligns with interests of our school, and the club must align to our school-wide goals. When we open a club up to a grade level, we have to cap the amount of kids who can participate in it because a teacher can only safely provide instruction to a certain number of kids at a time. What we did 2 years ago in the 1920 school year is we made sure that we opened enrollment up to an entire grade level when we were advertising a club. So we will continue to do that. I just got a question sent to me asking if clubs are open to younger children as well or just older students. We definitely have had clubs open to younger grades as well. Usually not kindergarten, sometimes kindergarten, but usually not. But again, it's always teacher driven, so it's specific to what the club focuses on. Right now, we don't have any clubs for our littlest students, but that may change in upcoming months. So that brings me to the end of the information that I had prepared ahead of time, but I'm sure that you all have some questions or other things on your mind. So if you have a question, I don't think I missed any in the chat, but if I did, feel free to drop it there again. Otherwise, you can come off mute and ask your question. The floor is open.
Hi, Miss Davis. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just it was a little bit too much to type into the chat, so I apologize. Um, my daughter is in the lower school, and I've been hearing a lot, and I did hear this back when she was in first grade before school shut down. So it's not a brand new issue, but it doesn't seem like she always has a lot of or enough time to have lunch. So I'm hearing that she's a lot, some days she's not having enough time to finish lunch, particularly if she's getting school lunch and not bringing lunch. And the latest update I got with that from her is that they seem to be using the bathroom there by the cafeteria right before lunch, because that's the most convenient time to do it in terms of it not interfering with class. And it sounded from her that maybe the bathroom is not necessarily all the stalls aren't working, and that's causing some delays with with all the kids being able to get their bathroom break and then get into lunch. I don't know, and I don't know if it's accurate, so I'm looking sort of for your feedback on that, because it sounded like she said, maybe one stall was working, but the door didn't close, or that, wasn't working, and maybe a couple of the other stalls weren't working at all. So I don't know if you have any information about, sorry, I meant to put my video on. If you have any information about how that's working, or if there's
Sure.
anything we can do about, I know lunch times are set, but I just feel bad when she says she doesn't have time to finish.
Sure. Your daughter's in second grade?
She's in third grade this year.
Third grade. Okay. I just asked. So yeah, to answer generally, for parents to know, we have a K-2 lunch, a 6 to 8 lunch, and a 3 to 5 lunch. Generally, so our kindergarten students are eating in their classrooms right now. So the K-2 lunch, we just have first and second grade in the lunchroom. I'd say that is the busiest time for bathroom if any parents are first or second grade. And my staff definitely does a lot of reminding, like, do you need to use the bathroom before you go outside? We don't do that as much with the students who are in the older grades, because they're just aware of their bodies a little bit better. I will say, we try to move kids fairly, not quickly, but reminding them, like, in the lunchroom, you need to be eating. There's a lot of Pokemon cards. There's a lot of things that kids want to do that's not food. And it's important to me that they get outside. So they have a 45-minute period, and it's roughly 20 minutes to eat, 5 minutes to transition, 20 minutes outside. They could use the bathroom at any time. We suggest that they use the bathroom when they're in the building so that they don't have to come in from the recess yard, but the kids are always coming in to use the restroom. There is one stall in each of the bathrooms that has been out of order since August, but the plumbers have been here all this week. If you've seen their white vans outside, that's what they're repairing. But there are 2 working stalls in each of the boys and the girls' bathrooms in the basement, and my staff regulates it. There's actually never a line. We don't let kids wait out in a line. Getting school lunch does take a little bit longer than the kids who come in with their lunch boxes. That's true. And for the kids does she eat first or play first? I think third grade.
She says eat first.
Okay, yeah. So when they play first and eat second, we always tell them, like, if you need to finish in your classroom, you can, just because we don't have transition time. It's like one lunch period after the other. But some kids can hang back for 5 minutes to eat a little bit of extra time, but we try not to encourage that, because I do want them to have at least 20 minutes of recess too. It's really tight timing. It is. I think solutions to fix are definitely both bathroom stalls getting repaired, but to be honest, we don't have long lines at lunchtime for the bathroom. It can be a longer line to get your tray in the kitchen than it can at the bathroom. So I'd say just continue to encourage her. I mean, we want her to use the bathroom. We don't want kids holding it. And just let her know she can advocate if she needs a couple extra minutes. We typically don't let kids take food outside. We try to keep it in the building. But if she ever needs to hang back to finish, or a lot of the teachers let them, have a snack, especially for the third graders who have a later lunch, they'll have a snack inside. They can finish a little bit in their classroom if they need to. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Of course, of course. Mr. Murphy, I see your hand, your virtual hand is raised.
Hey, Miss Davis, how you doing?
I'm a little tired, but I'm okay. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I was just following up. You mentioned bathrooms. So at the back to school night, Ms. Blunt mentioned that her classroom bathroom was broken. Just wanted to see if you had any updated timelines on when that'll be complete. Sound like the plumbers were in this week. So,
It's already fixed. It got
oh,
fixed
okay.
Friday.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
functioning. Yeah, no problem. Unfortunately, toilets get stopped a lot at school. I'm not going to say anything else about that, but it is a frequent occurrence. I see a message from Karen saying that her kid came home with a form to sign up for chorus. Yeah, choir. So choir is not an extracurricular. It happens during the school day. And for any new families, Nikki Paulino Trisdorfer is the one who runs our phenomenal choir. She does a choir with younger students as well as a choir with our older students. I believe it's 2 days a week. It's dependent on her schedule, but it's always during the day. It's not after school. She has a whole sign up form and a process, and I will put her email address in the chat because she's very responsive and she can answer any questions about choir. There you go. Thank you. We're going to be doing choir in the auditorium right now so kids can be spread out while they're singing. I see another virtual hand from an iPhone. Feel free to come off mute to ask your question.
Hi, I'm Kasia. My daughter is in 5th grade and she said that the music teacher mentioned that there will be like bands or instruments or something, but she didn't say when, but she wanted to know, would that still be happening because of the pandemic, or, or is it still on hold, or is there any more information to come?
Great question. So we have a couple music teachers at Henry. So Mr. Conrad is our music teacher, but then we have 2 part-time music teachers, Mr. Grafe and Mr. Sadie. So Mr. Grafe and Mr. Sadie are with us each 1.5 days a week on different days of the week. And they work with kids roughly grades 3 and above. So for 5th grade, definitely. Each of them has a different process for intaking students onto their caseload and their schedules. It's really it's on an individual basis because we have to coordinate with the classroom teacher, make sure that if they're missing academics, it's not impacting them negatively in that way. And I do believe that there's a paper copy sign up form for our strings teacher, for our band teacher, as well as for the choir, which is Miss Paulino. The lessons didn't start yet. So I would say recommend to follow up specifically with the teacher and they will be able to answer your questions. I shared earlier that we definitely have a higher interest in kids playing instruments and specifically violin than we have instruments in the building. We don't have that many. So we always, it's a problem. I wish we had more than what we do. But there's a couple of options and ways we get around this. First of all, if you're in a place where you can purchase or rent an instrument of your own, you can always do that. That's not mandated, but you can do that if that works for your family. We've had families in the past who's been interested in helping other kids play music. So if you'd like to donate instruments or help us purchase additional instruments, we always welcome and appreciate that. It allows us to expand our music program. We do a lot of repairs on instruments that we have. If your child has an instrument that they've outgrown and you'd like to donate it to the school or give it back to us, that is awesome as well. So the teachers who I was just talking about, it's probably Mr. Sadie who your daughter was asking about, because I know he was visiting class to class talking about strings.
I know she said something about, I think her music teacher was Mr. Conrad.
Oh, okay.
Last year and this year. So she said that he mentioned something and he said that he needs to figure it out or something like that. So I don't know. I'll make sure I ask Miss McNeil or something like that to see.
Yeah, Mr. Conrad is our teacher, full-time teacher. He teaches all the classes. So
Okay.
I don't know the specifics about what he's doing. Follow up with Miss McNeil and we'll get more info. And I was saying earlier on today that I need to invite Mr. Grafe and Mr. Sadie to our next family forum. They actually came virtually last year to answer some parents' questions because I don't know the details of all their programs. They work across a number of different schools.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, thanks for asking. And then I see from Alice in the chat asking me what grade does choir start. I'll be honest, since I don't know off the top of my head, I'd have to check with our music teacher. I don't want to tell you the wrong information, but we definitely have an upper school choir and a lower school choir. Are there any other questions? Yeah, Alice, I'm sorry. If you want to shoot Miss Paulino an email, she could definitely tell you. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this meeting up. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. We do have a meeting scheduled in another 2 weeks. It's right after Indigenous Peoples Day on October the 12th. But if anything comes up for you or you want to hang back to ask a personal question, feel free to. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your night. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.